So this next poem, I'm really happy that I get to share it today because a big part of the story of this poem is here. This is a poem that I wanted to write for a long, long time, and I couldn't figure out how to write it. It just wouldn't come, and I tried different versions. And Carolyn once said that I quoted you the other day about it. And Carolyn, you look so nervous. It's okay. It's a good quote, but about how many we write poems multiple times, hoping to get to the poem, right? And so this poem was a testament to that. That I had been trying to write about my dad's alcoholism in a way that showed how complex our relationship was, how having an alcoholic father is like having multiple fathers. And so I wrote the poem and I read it at the Poetry Lounge at my home venue where I first started sharing poetry. And my friends are here, Donnie, that I know from the Poetry Lounge is over there in the back. And a lot of what I have, I wouldn't have without that space. But either way, so I read the poem there, and then I realized that it took too much from me. Like I wasn't ready to share that publicly. So I put it away and I didn't share it for a long time. And then maybe like a year and sometime later, I found it. And no, I went looking for it and I couldn't find it. And I looked throughout. This was back before Google Docs, and I used to email myself poems. So I was like searching for it in all my emails, and I couldn't find it. And my friend Vanessa, we were very new friends at the time, and she used to drive to pick me up in Santa Monica and take me to the Poetry Lounge in West Hollywood, because that's love. And I worked in a parking garage and never learned how to drive. I don't know. I don't know what happened there. I was around cars all day, and I never learned how to turn one on. But but she would go pick me up and bring me to the Poetry Lounge, and I'm telling her this story one day in one of our rides, and then she goes, "Oh, I recorded the poem when you performed it." And mind you, we weren't friends at the time, and I don't know what moved her to record that specific poem as an audio note. And so she emailed me the audio note, and I was able to rewrite the poem from the sound of my own voice. So the poem came back for me, and it taught me the lesson that sometimes you write poems to like survive whatever it is that happened, and then you make a career out of your work, and you go out and you're sharing these poems that people tell you, oh, this helped me survive what I lived. So you put on this hat about like I help people, and then a poem comes back to slap you in the face and be like, no, bitch, you write these poems to help yourself. And so it had to be in a book, and so this Hermosa had to be the book that it was in. So here is the poem. The first one is a quiet Sunday afternoon. I find myself holding his hand so often, there is no need to tell him I love him. At dinner, I prefer to eat from his plate instead of mine, and he never stops me. He is tender, so tender, and I pretend to fall asleep with my head on his chest just to hear him breathing, as if I were inside of him, as if I were a vital organ, as if this were the reason I was made. He calls me his heart, and I never doubt it. I know the second one has come home by the slam of the door. It is 3 a.m. and every light is on. His music is loud and angry like him. When I ask him what's the matter, he answers and sounds like a hand slapped to a face or a body slammed to a wall or glass broken to a cheek, and I try not to cry because my tears are like blood to a shark, and he is a shark in the deepest part of night. My name is caught in his jaws. There is so much yelling. I wonder why the police haven't been called. So much anger. I fear the sun won't rise in time to save either one of us. The third one is full of jokes that are cheap and easy, like that vodka he likes. The fourth one never remembers how much he's hurt me. When we bump into each other in the kitchen the next morning, he won't look me in the eyes. His apologies come as a hurried kiss to a forehead, as a mumbled I love you before he rushes off to work. I resent him. Sometimes I even hate him. It is so difficult to love him, but if I don't, who else will? Who else will forgive him? Who else will save him? Who else will make him want to change? The fifth one I wish for every single day of my life. In every blown out birthday candle, every time I knelt in a church pew, I begged God to send him to me soon. And when he finally did, when God finally gave me a sober father, he was so broken, so brittle, so apologetic, so willing to make it work, I had no choice but to forget everything that had ever come before him in the day that he left me. A sudden exhale of wind, a slight twitch of a foot, a hand I couldn't get myself to release. I remembered the first one. How as a little girl, I used to pretend to fall asleep on my father's chest, as if I were an appendage of his body, the reason I was made, as if he had never become anyone else other than the man who called me his corazón and never let me doubt it.